Florida. Sunshine. Palm trees stretching toward an endless coastline. For decades, Florida sold the ultimate American fantasy. A house near the water. Warm winters. Rising property values that felt almost guaranteed. People didn't just move to Florida. They invested in it. Retirees chasing security. Families chasing space. Remote workers chasing freedom and locking it in with a mortgage. And for a long time, the dream worked. Home prices climbed. Construction boomed. New developments rose from wetlands and shorelines alike. Insurance was just a formality. A boring checkbox. Something you paid once a year and forgot. Until suddenly, you couldn't forget it anymore. Because in Florida, the housing crisis didn't start with prices. It started somewhere quieter. It started with insurance. And once insurance breaks, everything else follows. The hidden foundation. Every home sale rests on a silent assumption that insurance will exist. Banks require it. Mortgage contracts depend on it. Without insurance, a house isn't an asset, it's a liability. For years, Florida lived under an illusion of stability. Storms came and went. Claims were paid. Life continued. But over time, the gap between risk and reality kept growing. Beneath the surface, the math was already failing. Florida is one of the most disaster-exposed regions in the country. Hurricanes, flooding, storm surge, rising seas, risk stacked on top of risk. And insurance, at its core, is just math wearing a friendly face. Premiums collected, minus claims paid, minus legal costs, minus reinsurance fees. For a while, the numbers were tight, but manageable. Then the balance shifted. When losses grow faster than premiums, insurance stops working. Not suddenly, not dramatically, quietly. The storms get louder. Climate change didn't arrive with a press conference. It arrived through patterns. Stronger hurricanes, heavier rainfall, losses that came faster than insurers expected, and faster than models were built to handle. Over the past several years, storm damage accelerated faster than the system could adapt. Storm after storm forced insurers to rewrite their assumptions. Claims weren't just larger. They were relentless. Entire neighborhoods flooded. Roofs were torn away. Homes became unlivable overnight. Reserves drained faster than they could be rebuilt. But the damage didn't stop with wind and water. Florida developed one of the most aggressive insurance litigation environments in the country. What should have been claims became legal battles. And every lawsuit increased costs, even for people who never filed a claim. Costs ballooned. Delays multiplied. For insurers, Florida stopped being merely risky. It became unpredictable, and unpredictability is fatal to insurance. When the math breaks, insurance companies don't panic publicly. They adjust. First, they stop writing new policies. Then they raise premiums. Then they narrow coverage. Then they quietly leave. In recent years, this sequence has repeated again and again. One by one, private insurers exited the state. Some collapsed under accumulated losses. Others decided the risk no longer justified the reward. Homeowners opened renewal letters and froze. Premiums doubled. Then climbed again. Policies that once felt routine began to feel shocking. For many families, insurance began to feel like a second mortgage. And without insurance, banks don't negotiate. No policy, no mortgage. The illusion of choice. At first, the housing market didn't react. Florida was still hot. People kept moving in. Cash buyers shrugged off insurance costs. For a time, demand masked the problem. But beneath the surface, the structure was cracking. Buyers who needed financing struggled to qualify. Monthly costs exploded. Closings failed, not over price, but over insurability. sellers discovered a brutal truth. A house is only worth what someone can afford to insure. Condos were hit especially hard. Older buildings, deferred maintenance, coastal exposure. New safety rules raised costs dramatically. Associations raised fees. Special assessments followed. Owners faced a triple shock: rising insurance, rising HOA fees, unexpected repair bills. Some tried to sell. Buyers disappeared. Others stayed, trapped in properties that still looked valuable on paper but felt unsellable in reality. Citizens, the insurer of last resort. When private insurers pulled back, there was only one entity left that couldn't leave. Citizens Property Insurance Corporation was never meant to dominate the market. It was designed as a temporary backstop, a safety net. Instead, it became one of the largest insurers in Florida. Today, its growth reflects not preference, but necessity. Millions of homeowners didn't choose Citizens. They were pushed into it, not because it was cheap, but because it was the only option left. This created a dangerous paradox. If a major hurricane hits and Citizens can't cover the losses, the shortfall doesn't disappear. It spreads. Assessments can be levied across the state, even on people far from the coast, even on those who don't own homes. What was once private risk has increasingly become public risk. In Florida, risk doesn't stay local. It socializes. Who pays the price? The burden doesn't fall evenly. Wealthy homeowners absorb the cost. Investors pass it along through higher rents. But middle-class families feel the squeeze. Retirees on fixed incomes. Working families already stretched thin. People who did everything right, bought responsibly, paid their bills, trusted the system, now facing costs they never planned for. Forced to choose: pay soaring insurance or accept catastrophic risk. Renters aren't immune either. Landlords raise rents to cover premiums. Insurance costs always flow downhill. In Florida, paradise now comes with a surcharge. The bigger lesson: Florida didn't collapse overnight. It drifted into crisis. Slowly, predictably. The warning signs were there for years. They were just inconvenient. Insurance masked risk. As long as policies existed, danger felt manageable. But insurance doesn't eliminate risk. It only redistributes it. And when the risk becomes too large, the system breaks. This story matters far beyond Florida, because wherever climate risk meets financial denial, the same crisis is waiting quietly in line. If you want more deep dives into the systems that shape our lives, like and subscribe.